Thank you, Chair Hansen. If you would like to go ahead and begin the meeting, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. This meeting is being conducted using teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with the State of California Executive Order N-29-20 dated March 17th, 2020. This is regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. The live stream of this meeting may be viewed on Comcast Channel 15 and or online as noted on the agenda. In accordance with Executive Order N-29-20, the public may only view the meeting on television and or online and not in the council chambers. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. I don't have gavel, but the meeting is officially called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and planning commissioners. Our planning commission will be conducting tonight's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom. All planning commissioners and staff are participating from remote locations. Mr. Paulson, could you call the roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Badami.
Here.
Commissioner Hudis.
Here.
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Birch.
Here.
Commissioner Tavana.
Here.
Vice Chair Janoff.
Here.
And Chair Hansen.
Here. Thank you. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is our verbal communications. And as is traditional, whether we have a in-person meeting or a meeting on Zoom, we do welcome comments from the public. Comments from the public can take place in several formats. One is that you can submit written comments before the meeting, and they will be published as a desk item or included with our packet. And then also during the meeting, if you wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, you can do so in the verbal communication section of the meeting. And if you wish to speak on an item that is on the agenda, you can speak during that portion of the meeting. In this particular Zoom format, you do need, if you wish to speak during the meeting, to submit a request to staff. It's outlined in the agenda for the meeting what the email address is, and they will send you a Zoom link so that you can participate in the meeting. And then with that being said, our procedure remains the same, that we ask that you state your name and address for the record, and that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. So, Mr. Paulson, the first item is the verbal communications. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on items not on the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our consent items. We have one consent item on the agenda, and that's the approval of our meeting minutes from March 11th. And according to procedure, any member of the Planning Commission or any member of the public is able to pull items from the consent agenda, in which case they will be heard in the regular agenda in order. And so I wanted to know, does any member of the commission wish to pull the consent item? I see Commissioner Hudis had his hand up.
I was ahead of myself. I was moving to approve.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, then, Mr. Paulson, we don't have any members of the public that wanted to pull the consent item, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So then can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Commissioner Hudis.
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Badami? Second. Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, I will call the question. We have to, when we're doing the votes during this meeting, I'm supposed to ask each of you individually for your vote, and you can respond yes, no, or abstain. So I will start with Commissioner Badami,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudis,
Yes.
Commissioner Janoff,
Yes.
Commissioner Tivana,
Yes.
Commissioner Birch,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett. You're on mute, Commissioner Barnett. But I think he said yes.
Yes, I did.
And then I vote yes, so it passes unanimously. Okay, so now we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is listed under other business. And the item is the draft proposed 5-year capital improvement plan for the fiscal years 2021 to 2025. And the staff has prepared a really brief staff report, and then the draft of the entire plan is included under Exhibit 1. And we do have one desk item, hopefully all the commissioners received. It was sent out earlier this afternoon. It was a public comment. And I understand that Mr. Morley will be giving us a brief presentation.
Hi, good evening. Yes, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is the presentation for our 5-year CIP. Your role with the CIP is to review it and to make several findings regarding CEQA exemption and also consistency with the general plan, the North 40 specific plan, the Albright specific plan, and the Hillside specific plan. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that are in the CIP that might be of interest to you. Obviously, we continue to advance our transportation projects. We have several that, a matter of fact, were just recommended today, first step with the BTA for grant awards. So we looks like we are lined up for about $5 million in grant awards through Measure B through the BTA. So that's breaking news and good to hear. Those projects include things like the pedestrian overcrossing over Highway 17, improvements on Kennedy Road for pedestrians and bicyclists, a creek trail connector at Highway 9, and other similar projects. We also have a number of parks projects that we're working. Parks is generally focused on capital maintenance, so making sure that our infrastructure stays in good shape. And we have some facilities projects similarly structured to keep our facilities in good shape, with a little bit of a focus this year on ADA improvements around our facilities to make sure that they remain accessible. You have the full proposed capital improvement program in your packet, and I'm here to provide answers to any questions that you may have. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Morley. All right, the way we're going to do questions as well is we're going to ask each commissioner if they have any questions. That way we can make sure that, and if you don't, it's fine, just say no. So I will start with Commissioner Badami. Do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
Not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Tivana, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
No, not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Birch, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
Yeah, I have two, please.
Okay.
The portion that is allocated for the Highway 17, Highway 9 upgrade to the interchange there, is that based on what we were able to review in 2019?
Yes, so that's a continuing project that we've been working on. It's also a Measure B, largely a Measure B funded project. We are, matter of fact, met this morning with the consultant that's working on the conceptual design on that project for us. There's a big team with BTA as the main project lead, Caltrans as a partner, and the town obviously is a major partner in that. And we are looking at interchange improvements and corridor improvements on Highway 17 as well to make that all function better.
As a part of that discussion, was there a timeline that was provided?
So our initial so it's because it's a state highway, both Highway 9 and 17 are state highways, there's quite a bit of review process that goes into it. For the initial program, we're looking at the middle of 2021 for completion of the conceptual design. and the first approval, project approval from Caltrans. That simply sets us in motion towards construction. It doesn't get us a full design. And that will be a follow-up project that we'll work on once we've identified the full funding for the package, but we'll at that point know what we want to do for our project. Right now, there's many alternatives and we'll be narrowing it down to one. And then we'll be able to identify costs associated with that so that we know what we need in order to construct the project.
Okay. May I ask one more question?
Yes.
I also wanted to ask about the school bus program. It looks like it's currently set to go through 2021. Are there plans to extend that service then? And has it been successful? Have you felt that there's been a decrease on cars on the roads as kids have been utilizing the buses?
Thank you. We did have a good conversation with the town council a couple months ago regarding the school bus program. The council directed us to continue it for one more year with pretty clear signals that they were not going to be inclined to continue it past that, given the current ridership. And that's been the real challenge. We've had good subscriptions with the school bus program, and so a lot of good intention from parents, but the ridership, the actual kids on the bus, those numbers have been disappointingly low. And because of that, we see less impact on the street. So the goal of having it be a congestion management, part of the congestion management program really hasn't come to fruition as we had hoped. So we'll continue to push it. It's going to be a little touch and go through the beginning of the school year. As you can imagine, we don't yet know what the school districts have planned, and that will be probably a last minute decision. So we'll have to adjust on the fly if we're able to provide service into next year.
Okay. Chair, may I ask one more follow-up question to that item?
Sure.
So if we're looking at lower ridership and discontinuing after 2021, is there going to be any active type of program to remind people that if it's not utilized, it's going to go away? Because personally, I know people who this just saved them, with not having to drive down and being able to make it to work on time and their kids making it to school on time. Will there be any active participation between the town and the schools to really let parents know that this is there, but it's going to go away if you don't use it?
We use a number of resources to communicate with parents. We use the school newsletters, which is a really good source of getting information out. The schools have been super cooperative with us in getting the blurbs into there. So we do a lot of encouragement there, a lot of getting the word out, letting people know that it's available. Obviously, we use other social media that we have at our disposal, next door being the biggest, but Facebook and our town website, of course. And then we also have, with the parents that are already participating, obviously we have a great email distribution list. And so we do customized emails to them, encouraging them, not only the subscribers that are currently signed up and not riding, but their families and friends that might be interested to try and get the numbers up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Birch? I take it not. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hudis, did you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
Yes, thank you. I have questions on two items, please. The first item is page C16, which concerns the retaining wall project. And my question was, in order to assess compliance with the general plan and the North 40 specific plan, and particularly the hillside guidelines, it's a fairly large budget number, 2.3 million, I believe. Do we know the locations of those retaining walls ahead of time, or is this just in response to failed retaining walls? And then I have a quick follow-up on it.
So this is an ongoing capital program. So we have a funding amount that goes into this project on an annual basis. And that amount is $100,000. So every year the town adds $100,000 to that fund. And we program a project for that probably every other year, every third year, depending on where the need is. And this is really a capital maintenance project. So it's really focused on safety, the safety of our hillside roadways, to ensure that they stay stable, that egress is continued, and that kind of a thing. So we do an evaluation on a regular basis, identify where we need that capital maintenance, and program those retaining walls into a program. The current balance is somewhat less. It's let's see, in 2021, we'll have $536,000 in funding, and we will likely do a project for that this coming year, so that will bring that balance down.
Okay, thank you. That helps. I was concerned if it was as large as a 2.3 million, it would be good to know the locations, but it sounds like it's an ongoing and this is just maintenance. The second question I have is on page C24, and it also relates back to the desk item. The transportation element of the general plan designates Shannon Road as a class 3 bike route under TRA 19. There have been numerous concerns raised by residents about the conditions and speeding traffic on Shannon Road. Is the timing of this project coordinated with the potential traffic calming project, which I think is an earlier one on Shannon Road? And would the implementation of these be coordinated with each other?
So there's actually 3 projects on Shannon Road. The project on page C24, C25 that you referenced is a little bit further along at Santa Rosa Drive, so sort of up and over the top of the hill on Shannon Road. And this is really a repair project where the roadway is sliding, and we'd like to catch that before it gets worse and we lose a lane. So that's the specifics on this project. So this is really a reactive capital maintenance project. There are, however, 2 other projects that you referenced. One is in our traffic calming program, and that project is ready to go. That's on Shannon Road, just closer to Short Road, and that's the one where you have the desk item communication. That project is a traffic calming, but we worked with the residents there. We have a small allocation of funds every year for traffic calming of about $10,000. So we're limited in the number of projects that we can do. I believe this is the next one in the queue, so we'll be able to take this one on in the upcoming year and meet the request of the residents. The third project is one that is at the intersection of Los Gatos Boulevard and Shannon that will do some improvements headed east from there. Really focused on bike and ped improvements for the Safe Routes to School, from a Safe Routes to School perspective. As if you've driven that in the morning, you see the kids walking sort of on the pavement in the street type of a thing, and we want to make that a safer corridor. And that's a little bit bigger project that's got some utility work, so that will be, although we expect to start it in this fiscal year, will be one that takes a little bit longer to complete. I would anticipate that the traffic calming would occur prior to the other project and be far enough away that it's not an overlapping project.
Okay, that was really my question about the coordination between those 3 projects so that we don't have, numerous disruptions on Shannon Road.
Understand that.
Thank you.
Is that all the questions you had, Commissioner Hudes?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barnett, did you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Janoff, do you have any questions for Mr. Morley?
Yeah, I did. A couple questions, but am I the only one who's not seeing Commissioner Hudes?
I can see Commissioner Hudes.
Okay, I cannot, so hopefully the public can.
Okay.
Just a quick question about the Highway 17, Highway 9 interchange project. During the GPAC meetings, you made a presentation for requesting approval to the Planning Commission, to the Town Council regarding some of these Highway 17, Highway 9 projects. My question is, the project scope as written sounds like it's developing a project, and it was the understanding of GPAC and Planning Commission that projects or potential project concepts would come back to us for review and discussion. Can you comment about this project vis-a-vis that general understanding from GPAC and Planning Commission?
Sure, yeah, so it will definitely bring alternatives back for consideration. This morning we looked at 5 different options, and so taking those everything from a traditional interchange to some rather new designs of interchanges. We'll take those into a feasibility analysis to make sure that they work both in terms of right-of-way and functionality on a roadway. and then we'll bring the results back. And there's definitely a stakeholder outreach element that will come through for public and council review to make sure that we're all on the same page on what's going forward. VTA and Caltrans are being extremely inclusive on this one and working with us closely, and being very cognizant of our needs and what we want to do and how we want the project to progress.
Okay, great, thank you. Then just one other question. On project page C72 is the Blossom Hill Road traffic study. It's scoped from Camellia Terrace to Hillbrook, but between Short Road and Union Avenue, there are still safety concerns, specifically for cyclists, where there's literally no bike lane and no shoulder. My question is it possible to expand the scope at all? Because I feel like that may be a dangerous area, even perhaps indicating, with some signage that says no bike lane ahead or no shoulder ahead, or a bike route detour. So just, is it possible to just expand that a little bit from just a basic safety standpoint?
We can certainly, I think expanding the scope of the project as it's set now is probably not in the cards at this point, but we can certainly look at the signage, especially associated with that portion of the roadway. It's actually signed now for the bike route to leave Blossom Hill Road and to go through the neighborhood to the north. But we can make sure those signs are clear and maybe refresh those signs, and that will help to make it more obvious. One of our challenges on many of our roads, Blossom Hill, Shannon, Kennedy, is that bicyclists like them, especially the avid bicyclists, those that are comfortable riding on those kinds of roadways. And so they continue to use them even without the designated bike lane or the wide shoulder that might make it more comfortable for a casual user.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Morley, I had just one question for you. You referred to the project, the street repairs on Santa, close to Santa Rosa on Shannon. I noted that it was said in the report that that part of the roadway, because historically Shannon Road has been County Los Gatos. Okay, so are there other segments of Shannon Road that are also going to be annexed, or have they already been?
We currently have annexed all but a very small section of Shannon Road, and the next time that we do an annexation, a roadway annexation, we'll wrap that last segment into it. There's no reason for us not to have the full roadway at this point. It makes sense from a maintenance perspective, and both the county and the town are on that same page.
I personally was really glad to hear that, because I know it's always been an issue, and it's not only an issue for street improvements, but it's an issue for police and everything like that. So, like if there's ever an accident, who are you calling and where? But I also noted if I read it correctly, there is no funding for the street repairs, because the street is in pretty bad shape, even though it was worked on over the summer last year.
Yeah, that's been a troublesome segment. The segment that we're taking on in the capital budget, the county actually did a significant investment in right prior to it being annexed. The agreement with the county is that they provide us streets that are in good condition. So they 2 years before the annexation, they went in and they did a whole bunch of work with injection under the subsurface and the repaving. And it just didn't hold. So we're looking to do bring in some engineers that have some experience in roadways moving like this, and really take it back to the basics on this roadway and try and fix it once and for all, so that it's not something that we have to continue to address. You can see as you drive it, and it's even worse for bicyclists, that especially the edge side of the road that leads to the downhill portion. Fails pretty quickly, and we end up with ruts and unevenness in there, and we'd really like to fix that for good.
Yes, and you point out, I mean, that actually was my biggest concern about the roadways, because it's such a popular route for cyclists, especially, as you said, the avid cyclists, and it doesn't seem safe right now.
Yeah, we're continuing to patch it as we go, but that we know that that's not a long-term solution. So we have a consultant on board doing the design for us, and we should have that done shortly. And that will allow us, with this budget allocation, will allow us to move forward with a contract to do the work. It will be disruptive to the folks on Shannon Road while we're doing it, but it'll be a big fix, and then we won't be in there all the time. So it'll be a one-time disruption versus many times.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my only question. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over for public comments, should there be any, and I'm going to ask Director or Mr. Paulson whether or not we have any comments from the public for this item.
We do not have any comments from the public other than what was in the desk item. Okay,
so we have that is considered a public comment. So that being the case, I'm going to close the public part of this hearing on this item. And then we move to the point where commissioners can make comments, ask any additional questions, or if you're ready to make a motion. Just to clarify, I think Mr. Morley mentioned the process. What we're trying to do is forward a recommendation for approval of this CIP to town council. And the criteria that we're supposed to use, the scope of our review includes that it's exempt from CEQA. There's findings listed at the end of the staff report, but then also whether it's in compliance with the various plans that are mentioned in the staff report. So that being the case, I'm going to, again, ask each of the commissioners if you have comments or would like to make a motion, or if you have any additional questions. So I will start with Commissioner Badami.
I have a question. So we have Exhibit 2, a letter from a Frank Lawrence and Mary Hammers. And this question is for staff. Number 4, it says our immediate requests to the Planning Commission are as follows. So items A through D, are any of these within the Planning Commission purview to address tonight?
They are not.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions or comments on the CIP at this point? Mary or Commissioner Badami? So.
No, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Tabana, do you have any comments or questions on the CIP?
No, no further comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Birch?
I had one other quick question. There was a portion in there about relocating the utilities on Los Gatos Boulevard from overhead to underground. It sounds like that's a bit dependent on PG&E and their timing. But have they given you a range? Because I do know they're going to start doing the road work over there, some of the lane changes that were part of the North 40 project. Do you have an idea on when that utility work would be happening, or if we're basically going to have that entire section shut down for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been a bit of a moving target. So we had great traction with PG&E. This is a Rural 20 project, so it's ratepayer fees that get set aside to do these kind of projects that PG&E holds. And we had great progress. It's usually a 7-year project. We thought we were going to get to ours in 5. It looks like now, after bankruptcy and COVID, that and PSPS, that it's going to be at least 7 years of total completion time on the project. So we are at year 6 now. We expect another year before we finish construction there. What does that mean for North 40? I think we'll be out of the roadway on North 40 before the undergrounding by PG&E on the boulevard starts. There is a bit of a gap between Lark Avenue and the start of the undergrounding. So there's also that relief that will help as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hudis, did you have any additional questions or comments?
No, I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
And Commissioner Barnett, did you have any comments or questions?
I have no questions. I reviewed the material and would be prepared to make the findings as to consistency with the general plan and the specific plans.
So are you making a motion?
Well, I made the motion last time. I was going to let someone else do it.
Okay. All right. Well, so let me finish asking questions, and then we'll see if someone else wants to make the motion. Let's see, Vice Chair Janoff, did you have any comments or questions?
I do not.
And I only wanted to make the comment that I wanted to applaud Mr. Morley and his team, his staff, for putting together such a great program. And it's very easy to understand. And I think all of the things seem to be very much in support of us becoming a more bike and pedestrian friendly community and improving safety and all the things that we're trying to accomplish in the current general plan and with the forthcoming update of the general plan into 2040. So thank you for the good work. So with that being said, is there someone, a commissioner, that would like to make a motion with regard to the findings that we have to make to forward a recommendation of approval to council? Commissioner Hudis.
I move that we recommend that the town council approve the 2021 to 24-25 draft proposal CIP, and I can find that the project is exempt pursuant to the adopted guidelines for the implementation of CEQA section 15061B3. And I can also find that the potential projects in the draft CIP are consistent with the general plan, the North 40 specific plan, the Albright specific plan, and the Hillside specific plan. And that's my motion.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Badami.
Second.
All right, thank you. Are there any additional questions before I call the question? And I will do the same thing I do a roll call vote and please answer yes, no, or abstain. All right, seeing no additional comments, I will start with Commissioner Badami.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Tavana.
Yes.
Commissioner Birch.
Yes.
Commissioner Hudis.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes, I do.
Vice Chair Janoff.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so it passes unanimously. Mr. Paulson, are there any appeal rights for this item?
Thank you, Chair. No, there are not appeal rights because this is a recommendation to the town council.
Okay, well, very good. Then we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a report from the Director of Community Development. So Mr. Paulson, do you have a report for us?
Yes, thank you. And just like to say, it's great to see all of you, and we're thrilled that we're able to finally get to this point so we can start conducting the business of the town again. As you're aware, the council has had quite a few meetings. In those regular meetings, there was in the beginning of April, it was April 7th, the town council considered the family daycare ordinance amendment, the amendments to the accessory dwelling units, and also the preferred alternative framework for the general plan update. All of those were adopted. So those moved forward. We're taking this last week, council had the first Zoom meeting. This is our first Zoom meeting, and we're going to carry this forward to our other boards and commissions. We will have our first development review committee meeting next Tuesday via Zoom. Obviously, it will not be broadcast as council and planning commission are, but we're going to take that next step for the development review committee, and then we'll have historic preservation committee on the 27th. And so then we'll just continue to build on that and hopefully get to a point where either we're able to see each other in person or we just get better at using this technology. The following kind of getting that going, we're also looking at options for getting the general plan advisory committee back involved because we need to kind of keep that momentum going for the general plan update. So that's another important piece. Currently, we are not planning to open town hall until at least June 1st. Obviously, that is all subject to change moving forward, depending on what the county public health officer decides in her order as she moves through her decisions. And then lastly, I'd like to thank Arne Andrews, the assistant town manager, and Jenna DeLong, who is the deputy town clerk. They are doing the production bits. They actually have to physically be at KCAT, and that's something that we'll be looking to take on as staff member from the community development department, but I want to thank them for helping. Also want to thank the town clerk, our IT department, and ultimately everyone who's made this possible. Obviously, you know, everyone has been on Zoom meetings probably more in their lives now than they ever were before. But ultimately, I think we'll get used to it, and hopefully things will get back to some, you know, form of semblance. So thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. And then I will move on. I don't think that we do, but this portion of the agenda is if we had any subcommittee reports or commission matters. I don't think there was any. Our last meeting was on March 11th, and it was only days after that the shelter-in-place order was put in place. But I'll ask the question: are there any subcommittee reports that any commissioner would like to make? Okay, it looks like not the case. And then, is there any comments that commissioners have that they would like to make at this time before I adjourn the meeting? All right, well, seeing none, thank you all for participating in our first Zoom Planning Commission meeting. And this meeting is adjourned. And I'll do my virtual gavel. Knock, knock. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.